Hi, guess what we're going to talk about today? One of my favorite topics, assessments. So if you don't know anything about assessments or you love assessments, this is the place for you today. So let's get started.
So welcome. I am super excited because this is Clara's favorite topic, and we're going to be going into finding a little bit more about us, why we're doing what we're doing, what our strengths are. So what are yours, Clara?
Well, my actually number one strength is strategy. It's kind of how my brain is actually wired. So when I discovered that about myself, which was like a lot of years ago now, when I took an assessment, actually it said, "Oh, your number one strength is strategy," and I thought, "Oh, that makes perfect sense," right? It helped me understand that about my brain. I'm like, "Oh, so strategy is my number one always. Every time I do an assessment, that's my number one strength." How about you? Do you know?
Well, it's interesting because I have not always had one strength, or maybe I have, I don't know, but I've played to different strengths. So when I was
Normal.
when I was at school, I was really equally good at English and maths. And then, as you know, I went on and took a wrong route and became a chartered management accountant. So I was using that sort of logical, numerical strength. But I knew that didn't sit with me. And then it became, now I feel much more in my zone. But it's interesting how you can do things and still make it strong, even when it doesn't feel real natural. So the mindset and the creative thinking feels much more in tune with me.
So, but you said something interesting. You said that English and math were your strengths, and then you took a wrong turn. But maybe that wasn't such a wrong turn, because what came out of that is you found coaching, really, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So I and one bit that we're going to talk about is discovery. So I discovered by doing
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
something how much of a strength it was and how much I liked it. So I could do it
Yeah.
really well, and I was good at doing the job. Auditors and that loved me, but it didn't float my boat. So I discovered that yes, I could do it, but no, it wasn't following my bliss. And actually, if I really
Right.
wanted to, I could do something else. So that was kind
Yes.
of a really exciting discovery for me.
Yes. And unfortunately, I think too many of us are taught that you graduate high school, you go to college and get a degree so you can get a good job, so you can have a good retirement plan and all of those things. And we end up getting kind of shuffled in a direction that that maybe isn't something that is going to be fulfilling for us.
Yeah, and actually I got invited as a guest speaker on a podcast this week, and he said exactly the same. He said that he had experienced that and had gone along in one particular way, only to discover that the corporate world didn't feel fulfilling in what he was doing, and that it takes strength and courage to come
Yeah.
out of that, to think, no, I'm not going to get stuck. It's really easy to stay there because the pension and the
Right.
benefits, but to come out of it and think, no, I'm going to take the risk and just fly like a bird, almost to soar, to find your own wings. Yet there's no safety net around you apart from any
Yeah.
savings you have in the bank or any
Yeah.
assets you have. Is a big taking a deep breath and taking a plunge with it.
So that just makes it super important, I think, that you learn to discover. If you haven't wasn't brought up that way, or you haven't already discovered that piece, I think it's important that that's intentional, that you intentionally discover what it is that does what fill you up and make you feel fulfilled, what your bliss is, whatever terminology you want to use for that. Discovering that, I think, is super important, especially if you're feeling stuck where you're at. There's a reason. Like, if you're feeling all that way, there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to take that leap and experience that flying or that soaring or that feeling of like, okay, this is what I was born to do. I was made to do. This is in my DNA, right? Sometimes you have to do some self-discovery.
You do. And actually, that's a really good thing to say, because a lot of clients that I have, and bearing in mind, mine's all about the mindset, personal development, it's finding out who you are. I will speak to men and women in their 30s, 40s, even their 50s, and they'll say, well, what is it that you want to do? And they don't know. Because whatever was really exciting to them when they were a child, they were told, oh, you can't do that. You can't make money out of that. So they lost all those dreams. And then you lose that connection to who you really are. So how would you say that we could, how can we come back to that? How can we rediscover and rekindle and light up that fire that's really there?
Well, definitely over the years in my own consulting practice, I used assessments, and I'm a total assessment nerd, right? Assessment geek. When I see an assessment, I'm like, I have to do this assessment. It attracts me, and I don't know what it is about them that I'm so drawn to, but I just feel like, ooh, I need to do this. But it's because it teaches me something about myself. Right? So over the years in my consulting practice, I have always made my new clients take an assessment, right? Not for their benefit as much as for my own. And the one that I've always defaulted to, even though I think there's great benefit in like the Myers-Briggs and the personality ones, I always went to the Strengths Finder. Always. So I think it's because I could look at what are their strengths, because that's what it's all about. So what are your strengths? So look at what are their strengths. And at the other end of the spectrum, I think there's 34. Have you done the strength finders? No, I think there's 34. I could be off by one or two, but so you get to see from the top to the bottom. So you look at mine, when I first did it, it was strengths, my strategy way up here. Woo was way down here, right? So I'm like, oh, isn't this interesting to know about me? But isn't this interesting to know about my client, right? If strategy isn't high on their scale, right? We need to work on some strategy, but strategy is not where they want to live, right? Because we're happier and more comfortable working on our strengths, right? It doesn't have to be a struggle all the time. Right? I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. I don't want to work in my weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right? I could never have been the accountant that you were. Right? I'd like rather crawl through broken glass than do my accounting. Right? It's the way I'm wired. Now I want all of the pieces. I'm strategic. I want all the pieces to fit and match and color coordinate the whole bit, right? Because that's strategy, but I don't want to do the accounting. Shoot me, please. So I pay someone to do that, right? And having done an assessment like Strength Finders gave me permission to say, oh, that's not me. Oh, no, I can't be an accountant. Oh, no, I can't be that person, even though technically I could probably, I'm an intelligent woman, technically could work it out, but I would hate every minute of it, right? So for me, it's all that self-discovery. The first step is assessments, and there are some lovely assessments out there, but Strength Finders, I kind of default to that one because I think that helps people so much. How about you? Tell me about some assessments you've done.
Well, I don't. I mean, I have done Myers-Briggs, but that was part of when I was corporate, and I find, and like I'm open to new ideas and new ways of thinking about things, but I found like with that can box you a little bit into, the 7 billion people that can't fit into however many boxes there are on some of these things. So we are a bit wider and a bit a bit more flexible than what sometimes we can be labeled as, and having a label sometimes can inhibit and box off what we think we can do. So I have nothing wrong with assessments. The way I guess I work with my clients is that I would help them to do some inner work in
of course.
doing stuff
Discovery.
to,
Sure.
yeah, visualization. There's different techniques, visualization, there's writing exercises, there's
Hmm.
different things that taps into you and your innateness, I guess, if you like to call it that, of who you are. So discovering through that way a little bit. But there's nothing wrong with either. And actually, depending on who you are as a person, it could be a mixture of the both. Or, you know, you might be really
Absolutely.
interested in yours rather than mine, and other people would be interested in mine rather than yours. And it's trying it out, see what works, see what, there's nothing wrong with knowing that,
Right.
you know, your strength is strategy at the top. But that doesn't limit you just to that, because there is a delightful mix of wonderful things you can do.
And that's very true. So don't focus on necessarily what your number one strength is. Focus, look at the whole spectrum. Like, so the Strength Finders is awesome because it lets you, it tells you all of your strengths in the order they fall, all the way down to like the lowest. But then each one has a little thing you can read about it. This is what this tends to mean for people. These are jobs you might be great at. So if you're in the discovery phase and you're like, I have no idea, no idea, that can be a good starting point to say, oh, okay, I'm strategic. What does that mean about me? Right? What kind of jobs might I be good at? But don't just focus on the one, because certainly I'm definitely a creative, and that's very high on my list. Just the strategies falls at the top. That's all. But
Yeah.
knowing those things about yourself, that's a piece of self-discovery. What you're talking about is deeper self-discovery for sure, right?
Yeah,
Getting
it
to know
is.
who you are
You are.
in a
Yeah.
more natural way. So I think blending them is a brilliant plan. Just like in our book, right? We talk about both sides, and our show, the heart and mind of business. It's about marrying those two things together in a more healthy, well-rounded way.
And even knowing that when you're setting up a business, when I set it up, I started with the strengths that are what I knew, which was a little more business focused,
Hmm.
and it just evolved. But allow yourself to go with that evolving, and where your
Yes.
strengths then come out, and allow a certain fluid. For me, it was allowing
Hmm.
that certain fluidity to really find, after being corporate for so long, finding my wings and how I could creatively express what I wanted to do in a way that
Right.
felt right for me, rather than what felt right for a business or
Right.
particular type of business. So, you know, you've got to enjoy and experiment. There's a wonderful exercise that is, I wonder what would happen if. I wonder if. It comes
Mhm.
back to that childlike, where we can explore. I wonder what would happen if I use this skill. I wonder what would happen if I explored doing this. Or I wonder what would happen. And it bypasses a little bit of that little bit of chatter, that a little bit of critical voice in our head, because
Mm.
we're allowing ourselves to be childlike and explore what we might like to do, which may be a strength, but we haven't really explored it yet.
Right. And sometimes giving yourself permission is all that it takes,
Yeah,
right? Give yourself permission. And that's what discovery is all about. So when we talk about that in our book, we talk about self-discovery, it's all about giving yourself permission to look outside of where you are right now, right? And
absolutely.
permission to say, okay, I think I'm interested in that right there. Or your current business, if you already own your own business, allowing it to pivot and or shift or mold or change in a way that fits you better, is more fulfilling to you. Definitely happened in my consulting practice over the years, where I went from just helping people start businesses or their fledgling business to more and more writing, right? So it was slowly kind of a transitional. Now I predominantly help people with writing in regards to their business. It was just a slow, natural
Yeah.
in that direction. You know, it's like it pulled me in that direction. So give yourself permission,
Yeah.
right? To say, what if? What if I did this? What if I played with that? Wouldn't this be fun? And have that be okay. It's like, as adults, it's like they want to take our fun away. I'm here to say,
Yeah,
let's keep our fun.
absolutely. And again, in that book, we talk about beliefs and what we believe we think we should do. and how we can get rid of some of those things, because just because we showed an aptitude for something at one point in our life doesn't mean to say we have to do that all the time. That we evolve, we grow, and our strengths will evolve and change and grow, and it's same with our interests as well. So I love the fact of being playful and allowing yourself to explore opportunities, but not going down too many different rabbit holes, because it's about, you know, it's finding what your values are and who you really are, not what other people expect you to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, well, we probably have gone over our time today, but we thank you guys for hanging with us for a little extra time to just dig into the value of some self-discovery and some assessments. If you have more questions, we would love for you to reach out to us. We're happy to answer them. And of course, while you're here, pop down below, subscribe to our channel, turn on the notifications so you know we're going. And of course, every Wednesday, come back and see us as we share more things that have to do with the heart and mind of business.
And look forward to seeing you soon. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about and what's going on for you. And subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have the most amazing of weeks.
Amazing week. Yeah. All right. See you next week.